On number 5, what we want to do is they want to use synthetic division. Should actually be x equals -2 as a factor because this is x plus 2. So, and if not, put it in quotient form, remainder. So let's do this. Let's do -2. We have 2, 1, 0, -1. So now we're just gonna synthetically divide. So bring down the 2, -4, add 3, multiply, -6, add -5, multiply 10, add 10, multiply -20. So our remainder is actually -21. So putting it into the form, we want x plus 2 times, and this is x squared, this is x cubed. So 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 5x plus 10, and then minus the remainder of 21 for number 5. Okay, number 6, 7, 8, and 9 perform the operations. So this one I'm just going to distribute this negative. So this is 7i minus 20 plus 9i. Combine like terms. So this is -20 plus 16i. That's that. Number 7, do not overcomplicate it. So we're squaring a square root. Our answer is -3. Number 8, we want to foil this. So first, outer, inner, last. First is 20. Next one is -25i. Next is -16i. And the last is plus 20i squared. So now I'm going to combine. So 20 minus 41i minus 20. Simplify because the 20s cancel each other out. So it's -41i. The next one, we need to have the same denominator. So I'm going to multiply the first one by 2 minus I and 2 minus I. And the second one by 3 plus I and 3 plus I. This gives me 16i minus 8i squared plus 9 times 3 is 27 plus 9i. Over, leave the bottom alone in their own forms. No need to combine them. And move this over a little. So then this is 16, combining like terms. Let me combine 16 plus 9 is 25i plus 8 plus 27 over 3 plus I and 2 minus I. And 8 plus 27, just move this up a little bit, is 25i. 8 plus 27 is 35 over 3 plus I and 2 minus I. I know if I factor out a 5, it would just be 5i and 7i on top, so nothing really cancels. So I'm just going to leave it as is. That's that. Number 10, if 3i is a root, I guarantee there's a -3i. So that is always the rule. So now I'm going to try to factor it to see if I can find the normal one. So if I had x cubed plus x squared plus 9x plus 9, I factor out an x squared. This gives me an x plus 1. Factor out a 9. This gives me an x plus 1. This is x squared plus 9 times x plus 1. Does it make sense that this part gives me those zeros? Now we have x plus 1. That is x equals -1 for my 0. So there it is, my 3 zeros. Number 11, find all the real zeros of the polynomials this is not true. Not all the real zeros are 0, but we just want to find the real zeros. So I'm going to factor the first one because it's an x squared. Factoring comes easily to me, so I'm going to do that first. So this one is 3x and 2x, and the other one is 3 times 1. And I know 9 minus 7. 9 minus 2 is 7, so 3. This makes 9. I want negative 9 plus 2. So then my zeros are then 3x plus 1, set that equal to 0. 3x equals negative 1. X equals negative 1/3. 2x minus 3 equals 0. 2x equals 3. And x equals 3/2. So that's one way about it. With this, you could put it into the quadratic equation and it will give you the exact same answers. So let's do the next one, which is, let's see, get my pencil to chart. Okay, connect here. The next one, I'm going to factor. I can see I can factor. If I can factor, I'm going to factor. I get out a 2x squared. This gives me an x plus 2, and then there's a 1 if it just repeats, because if I distribute a 1, it'd be x plus 2. So then it'd be 2x squared plus 1 and x plus 2. This gives me x equals negative 2 as one of them, for sure. And then the other one, let me box these over here. 2x squared plus 1. If I set that equal to 0, this gives me x squared equals negative 1/2. And if I square root that, that's an imaginary one. So my answer is just x equals negative 2. Because there's supposed to be 3 of them. And the other one will be negative 1/2. And the square root, that will give me 2 imaginary zeros. Let's go on to number 12. Find all the zeros of the functions. First, I'm going to list all the possible zeros. So it's plus or minus 9, plus or minus 3, and plus or minus 1. I noticed that all of the numbers in the equation is positive. So if I'm going to try to do synthetic division and get a 0 as a remainder, my numbers are going to have to be negative. Otherwise, the remainder is just going to grow exponentially. So here, I'm going to start with negative 1. And that gives me 1, 6, 10, 6, 9. I'm going to check it. So 1, negative 1, 5, negative 5, 5, negative 5, 1, negative 1. This gives me an 8. This is not a 0. So let's try negative 3. I'm not going to give you one that is going to take a lot of guesses. So probably 3 at most. So let's try this next one. 1, negative 3, 6, oh, not 6, 3, negative 9, 1, negative 3, 3, negative 9, and here is a 0. And I see this 1 and 3 repeat. This is a 3x squared, and x cubed, and this is factorable. I can keep guessing and trying, but I'm going to factor it because I'm going to get to the answer a lot easier this way, a lot quicker. And it factors out with this, and there's a repeating. So this is x squared plus 1, x plus 3. So another 0 is, so one of them is negative 3 from my synthetic division. And now I got another negative 3 from my factoring. And then I have an x squared plus 1. If I set that up equal to 0, then x squared equals negative 1. And if I square root that, this gives me a plus or minus I, because I is negative 1. So my answer will be some kind of form of I. So these 4 zeros, because I have an x4, are all of my zeros. Let's go on to number 13. Determine it is an upper bound or a lower bound for the zero. So first, I'm just going to put it in to see if it is a zero at all. So 1, I got 4, -3, 4, -3. Here, this is 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 1, 1, 5, 5. And this is 2. So this is not a 0. So that will be my answer. But let's try something. Let's say if it is a 0, okay? In a 0, so an upper bound and lower bound. So this is an x cubed. And it looks something like this. So it has 3 zeros, and this is the upper bound and lower bound here. In the case of this particular equation, the upper bound, since the upper bound is the one is going to be the biggest number, the most positive number, my factors, all my potential zeros are plus or minus 3, plus or minus 1. And in this case, the upper bound number would have been 3. So my upper bound would have been the biggest positive number. So my upper bound, possible one, is actually 3. And my lower bound would have been the lowest number possible. In this case, would have been -3. There are fractions in between, but since they are fractions, the 3/4 and the 1/4, they will not be upper bound and lower bound because they won't be bigger than 1. So the number 3 is going to be your upper bound, and your lower bound is going to be -3.